Fantastic. I think we will get started. So I did want to just start by introducing myself. I'm James Barry. I'm the director of the growth and product team here at B-Lab UK. So as you all know, B-Lab UK is the organization that is supporting the growth of the B Corp movement and helping everyone understand how to certify and supporting them on that journey. And so we work with companies on helping them understand that certification process and guiding them along that journey. My colleague Nicole will also be presenting during this session. So maybe Nicole, I'll ask you just to come off mute and introduce yourself as well.
Thanks, James. And hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Bengiat, and I'm the certification manager. So I work with James in the growth and product team, seeing lots of familiar names as well. So really great to see you all here today, and thanks for joining us.
Brilliant. So just before I get started and talk about what we're going to be covering today, I just want to begin really with a big thank you. You know, we've seen such a huge growth in companies looking at B Corp certification and having it as I guess, a validation of their sustainability journey over the last kind of 12 to 18 months. And, you know, I can only imagine how big an impact the pandemic has had on so many businesses. So to actually see so many businesses doubling down on their sustainability is really inspiring. And so we want to thank you for doing that, for going on that journey, and also for your kind of patience on that journey as we work to increase our capacity and to make sure that we can kind of work with all companies who want to become B Corps and help them along that journey. So big thank you from us from the start. And my colleague Daisy is going to help me with the slides. So what are we going to talk about today? So as you will have seen from our emails, we have established a new kind of verification process for smaller companies called the micro enterprise approach. And we'll talk through a little bit about what that is and what that means for you. Then Nicole's going to kind of take you through what new tasks you might be seeing in the assessment and how you can actually go about completing those tasks, which are a prerequisite for moving forward with your verification. And then at the end, we're going to kind of open it up for Q&A and just to kind of make sure that you have enough time to get answers to any questions that you might have about the practicalities of actually how you complete that. So what we'll do is we'll just kick off with talking just through some housekeeping. So you might have noticed this session will be recorded. This is just so that we can send it over to you yourselves after the session and to anyone who might have been missing the session. If you have a question, then please do post it in the chat, and either we'll wait for the end and answer it, or one of my colleagues will answer it in the chat, or you can just kind of wait until the end and we'll dive into Q&A and pick it up there. And as I said before, the slides and the recording will be circulated afterwards. So if you need to check on something that we've said, or you need to kind of look through the slides to really understand how those tasks will be completed, then you can do that when we send it to you. So just diving into the micro enterprise approach and what it means for you. So starting with the reason why we've created this. So as you will have known, over the last 12 to 18 months, we've had a massive growth in demand. So to give an example of that, you know, we've built B Corp from originally in the States in 2007 starting, and then starting in the UK in 2015, to a place where we've actually got over 4,000 companies that are B Corp certified now. In the last year, we've had over 4,000 applications to become B Corp certified. And so that is really the scale of change that we're talking about right now. And so B-Lab Global have been significantly increasing their verification capacity to respond to this growing demand for B Corp certification. And we're actually piloting a program now to train kind of independent verifiers to work with companies awaiting verification. And what that has allowed us to do, as in addition to this micro enterprise approach, is to increase our capacity about 200%. And so ultimately, Daisy, if you just go to the next slide, we will be able to kind of address your verification sooner than expected. And so everyone on this call will be on the micro enterprise approach. So you will fit into this category of being under 1 million USD on a 0 worker or a 1 to 9 worker track in any sector, and or being on a 10 to 49 worker track in service or in a service sector or in wholesale retail. There are other companies that are not on this track and are on a smaller enterprise verification approach, which is slightly different and tailored to that specific company. And so, as I said, we actually are looking to work with companies in this micro enterprise approach like yourselves and move forward over the next kind of 1 to 3 months. And actually, if you're able to do these tasks that we'll talk you through now, it will be closer to the 1 month period to take you through the final stages of your verification and to finalize your certification. And within this micro enterprise approach, there are some tasks that previously would have been done later in the process that we've kind of pulled to the start of the process, and we've asked that you complete prior to moving forward with that verification. So that kind of upfront work will really help accelerate the process. There are companies right now, like yourselves, that are starting that verification process. And actually, we think that that verification process will last around a month. And so if you're able to complete those tasks, you could actually become a certified B Corp within 1 to 2 months. And one other thing to note is that if your score drops below the 80 points, your review can be closed. However, we do work with companies on getting their score back up to 80 points and getting them back through the process. But one thing to note on that is that it's really important to make sure your score is robust. And if you're on the barrier of 80 points, then please have a look at some of our improvement guides, where we've kind of given some ideas of how you can kind of find quick wins to improve your impact and your score above just the 80-point barrier. So if that's the overall micro-enterprise approach, I want to hand over to Nicole, who's going to take you through the practicalities of the new tasks that will appear for you in the assessment and just talk you through exactly how those get completed. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Nicole.
Great. So in this next section, as James says, I'll talk a little bit about what these changes practically mean for you and some of the new tasks that you'll now be seeing in your review that you'll need to complete. So I wanted to start with this screenshot of the reviews page in the BIA. So hopefully this will look familiar to most of you. So this is the reviews page, as you can see in the left-hand navigation. This is where you'll see all of the different tasks and activities that you as the company and the verification analyst that you'll be working with will be completing. So all companies that are on the call today are in the evaluation queue part of the process. And this is where you'll see some of the new tasks that are highlighted here, which I'll talk through in a little bit more detail as we go through this section. I just wanted to highlight as well that you'll see some of the tasks have due dates against them. This is indicative of ideally when the task should be completed, but we recognise that that timeframe might be a little bit tight for some of you. So you will have up to 90 days to complete all of these tasks from the date that they were assigned, which was on the 16th of August. So not to worry if some of those dates might look a little bit short because you do have a bit more time there. So Daisy, if we can move on to the next slide. So the first task to go through is signing the B Corp statement. So the B Corp statement is a brief summary describing how the company approached the B Impact assessment. So you'll see if you click into the task that you have the option to click this blue button, sign now. If you click on that, it will take you to another box where you can input your statement. So the B Corp statement should include things such as who from the company was involved in completing the B Impact assessment, any data, documents that you've referenced, or your kind of general approach to collecting data for the assessment and how you approach that, how long it took you to complete the assessment, and any assumptions or estimates that you've used that you might want to just share with B-Lab for some more additional context. So it's really just kind of a declaration that the information that your company has provided is accurate and honest, and to give that kind of background to the analyst as to how you went about the data collection. So you can input that statement and you also provide your electronic signature, and that's all that's needed for that task. So the second one is uploading financial documentation. So again, I've just included a screenshot here so you can see what that looks like. And this just requires you to upload either your P&L statement or the company's income statement, anything that can be used to verify the company's revenue for the last fiscal year. And this is really important for your review because lots of questions in the BMPACT assessment are based on revenue. And we also will need to verify the company's revenue in order to confirm your annual certification fee. So this is really another very important piece of information that we need to be able to verify. So moving on to operational highlights. This task is a little bit different and can potentially be a bit more time consuming. So we wanted to spend a bit more time just talking through exactly what's required here. So an analyst will review your assessment and select a number of questions where the company is scoring particularly highly. These questions will be added to the verification report. So you'll see in the comment here in the screenshot, there's a link included to the verification report. And if you click on that, it will take you through to the verification report where you can see the questions that have been selected. And if we move to the next slide, this is an example of what that might look like on your verification report. So you'll see for a number of different impact areas, for all of the impact areas, a number of questions have been selected. And what you need to do here is select 2 questions from each impact area and provide a comment or a rationale about what that particular practice looks like in the company. So who it applies to, when it was implemented, and if you have any documentation or evidence to support that, you can also upload that here. And so I just also wanted to point out, importantly, some of the impact areas might only have 1 question or no questions available here. So if that is the case, you only need to comment on as many as appear. So you don't need to make up for it by commenting on 3 questions from an additional section. So you'll see in the governance section, only 1 question has been selected in this example. So you only need to provide a comment for that particular question. I wanted to talk through a couple of examples here just to give this a bit more flavour. So the first example here is for the question, what percentage of employees on a full-time equivalent basis are paid at least the equivalent of a living wage for an individual? So you'll see in this example that the company selected the second option, 75 to 89%. And to answer the operational highlight, they've added a comment which just explains that helping employees thrive financially is a top priority for the company, and over the past couple of years, they've made efforts to increase their FTE base salary for all employees. They've also included the salary figure there, and they've also kind of given some explanation as to why some employees are not receiving the living wage, but they're working on this and they have an intention to increase the salary for the next year. So it just kind of explains what that practice actually means and why they've selected the answer that they've selected. And there's one more example, which is around supplementary health benefits. So this question is asking what benefits are provided to full-time tenured workers to supplement government programs. So in this example, the company selected quite a few different options here. And the operational highlight comment would say that they have an employee handbook to outline all the benefits that are provided. It then lists those benefits and talks about how they're provided for and paid for by the company, which staff are eligible to receive them and which staff are actually receiving these benefits. And they could also upload that employee handbook to the comment to provide that further evidence. So these are just kind of 2 examples about how you could approach those operational highlights questions to really kind of give a flavour to that analyst of what that policy or practice looks like for you. And then the final new task that you'll be seeing is the legal requirement review. So hopefully lots of you are already aware of the legal requirement and you may have even completed it already, which is great. But for those of you that maybe aren't so familiar with it, the B Corp legal requirement is an amendment to the company's governing documents. So typically the company's articles of association to embed stakeholder consideration into decision making. So what we mean by stakeholder consideration is really encouraging companies to make decisions taking into account employees, suppliers, customers, the environment, and the wider community that the business is operating in. And we'll share these slides afterwards, but we've included a link here to the legal requirement tool on our website, which will take you through the specific requirements of what that looks like, and also includes the legal language that you can use depending on the legal structure of the company. So once that's been completed, please upload the evidence of that to this task, and you can do that in the comment section here. Next slide, please. Great. So with this last slide, we just wanted to share an overview of what you can expect from the rest of the process. So the yellow boxes here indicate activities that should be completed by yourselves, the companies. The red boxes are tasks that the standards analyst will be completing, and then the green boxes are tasks that you'll work on together. So as you'll know kind of from the previous slides, the boxes under the evaluation queue stage really reflect these new tasks that need to be completed within the next 90 days to make sure you're really well set up for the next part of the process. Once that's all done, you'll move into the evaluation phase, where the analyst will review all of that information that you've provided, and you'll also schedule and attend a review call to go through all of that information in more detail and also kind of get into the nitty-gritty of your assessment. And that's really kind of the opportunity to have that in-depth conversation with the analyst. In the verification queue, if your company has opted into any impact business models, you'll be asked to provide documentation for those. And there'll also be a further period of kind of review, question follow-ups. And then in the actual verification stage, this will be kind of the full review of that IBM documentation, any other questions that the analyst might have for the company or that the company might have for the analyst, and then the final assessment check to verify your final score. And after that, you'll sign the B Corp agreement, pay the certification fee, and complete your certification as a B Corp. So just a couple of things to keep in mind here. Please do make sure that you have your notifications enabled within the Impact app, because lots of the communication from the analyst will be through the Impact app itself. So it's important that your notifications are enabled so that you know when the analyst is reaching out to you, and you can complete these tasks within the timeframes that are set. And as James mentioned earlier, if your assessment does fall below the 80 points, the review will be closed. So it's just important to bear that in mind when you're kind of going into this, that you're confident in the score that you've submitted, and that you're kind of communicating well with the analyst through that process. And that's our last slide. So if anyone has any questions, I see a few questions have been coming into the chat, but if anyone wants to come off mute and ask any questions, then feel free.
Yeah, I have.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have a quick question about the articles. I appreciate that you attached some legal wording, which is fantastic. I've been looking everywhere for an example of where to add that legal requirement into the articles, and I can't find any examples. I prefer not to have to go to the lawyers just to paste some text into my articles. So if you have any examples, that would be fantastic, because I've been personally just trying to do that for a couple of weeks and coming up short.
Yeah, absolutely. So typically it would be like where the objects clause is in a normal set of articles. I know some articles don't have objects clauses, but if your articles either have an objects clause or have a kind of the company purpose, then it would basically be just taking those out and putting these new articles or this new text in. So potentially where previously it would say the purpose of the company is to create value for its members, it would now be replaced with that language, which is the purpose of the company is to create a positive impact on society and the environment. What I would say is that if you are having further difficulty, then please reach out to us. My colleague will put our email address in the chat, because we do have a relationship with the law firm that can actually provide some support. Depending on your revenue, they can provide some support for on a pro bono basis. So as I say, if you are having trouble, then please email us and we can facilitate that.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, I just happen to not have any purpose clauses or objects clauses, so I guess I'm an anomaly.
So
thank you.
Sorry to sort of jump in. When we actually discussed this with our lawyers, because we didn't have the object clauses either, and there was a director's responsibilities section right at the front, which does describe what the company's there to do and how it should be governed. And this was an addendum to that, so it didn't replace everything, but it does cover a large chunk within directors and companies' responsibilities. So you may find that you've got that style of articles.
Great, thank you very much. And yeah, I'd love to, if anyone has an example, it'll be gratefully received.
If you want to message me your email, I can send you ours later today.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Alexander. That's really helpful. Really appreciate that.
No problem.
Just picking up on some of them in the questions in the chat. So Darren had asked, can you delete comments? Actually, you can't delete comments at the moment. We're working on that functionality, but the review team don't necessarily look at those comments in the legal section. They will tend to just kind of look at the upload that you've done of your articles. I'll hand this over to Nicole. Is it a good idea? So this is from Sarah. Is it a good idea to add supporting documents potentially on the verification report where you're talking about your operational highlights?
Yeah, I would say yes, if you have relevant documentation to hand for the operational highlights that you're choosing to leave the comments for. It is always helpful for the analyst to see those. The ask is that you provide operational highlights for 2 questions per impact area. So if that would be kind of a maximum of 10 comments and 10 documents. So you don't need to do it necessarily for all of the questions, but if you would like to do it and you have the documentation to hand for those particular operational highlights questions, then yes, I think that would be helpful.
Great. And is that done, that's done, Rita's asking, in the comments section?
That's right, yes. So when you click into the comment section, there should be a kind of paperclip symbol and you can attach documents that way. Brilliant.
Fantastic. There was also a question from that I wanted to pick up from Phil here saying, there's 90 days to complete, but it said 4 weeks on the slide. So yeah, that's a great question on timelines. So the due date of the tasks is kind of when we would hope the company would be able to provide that to us by. So it's about 4 weeks out, I think. However, if you are able to provide it sooner, then we have capacity to take companies as soon as they're ready through with the verification process. So if it's possible for you to complete those tasks now, then that would be great at kind of pushing forward your assessment really, really quickly. And then just to reiterate what Nicole said, there is up to 90 days after your after August the 16th to actually get all of those documents to us. If there's a really kind of good reason why you're not able to do that, then please do again get in touch with us and we can try and work that out with you.
Yeah, thanks for that, James. It's Phil Hyam. Yeah, the notification of verification landed with us just in the middle of the summer holiday. So I think it was the 15th of August and the deadline set is the 13th of September. And I was off for 3 weeks, more or less, when the thing arrived. We're not going to get to it for probably another 6 weeks. So I've put a note in the comment section of our application. Presumably someone's going to respond to that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you'll still be able to do it within the 90 days. So that's no problem. That if you're not able to do it within that due date, as I say, you have 90 days to do it. If it moves out, then please let us know. Ideally through that email that's been provided, and we'll help you out with that.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. There's a great question here from Iona saying, we filled out our assessment for the financial year 1920 and some things have changed. So yeah, it's a great question, and obviously it's due to the kind of prolonged timelines that have been in place. So I would recommend when you go in to kind of do your operational highlights and upload your P&L, just to go in and change those questions that relate to the specific financial year. So if your kind of turnover has changed or anything related to that, then I would go in and change those specific questions before going forward with verification. So, but more broadly, we are looking at a specific reporting period. So if that specific reporting period spans, April 2019 to April 2020, then we're happy to verify on that reporting period. Good technical one here for you, Nicole. Caroline's asking, how do you check if your notifications are switched on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you can do that in the settings within the BIA. So if you click on settings And then team members, you'll see a list of everyone in your team that has access to the BIA. And if you click on their name, you should be able to check the box to say enable notifications.
Brilliant. And so we've got a question here from Susie. In the review area, do we wait for the analyst where there are padlock symbols? It looks like there are tasks waiting there. Do you want to pick this up, Nicole?
Yeah, so we can also pick this up offline just to see what's specifically going on within your review. But typically when there's a padlock, it just means that some other tasks need to be completed before that task can be opened. So if you see which tasks that is specifically waiting on, then you'll see what needs to be done. But reach out to us if you want a bit more help on that one. And I can drop our team email address in the chat as well.
Brilliant. And so moving on, we've got Laura who's asked about they're in the middle of a funding round and they can't change their articles. Is there a way to progress with the review? Unfortunately for this approach, we actually would need the kind of articles to be updated prior to moving forward with the certification. So again, depending on how long that funding round lasts and if it's going to move you beyond the 90 days that we've asked you to complete those tasks in, please just get in touch with us because we'll understand obviously the reality of the situation and we'll be able to kind of move that timeline out so that you will have time then to update the articles and provide us with that information, because it is something that we will need to verify through this process rather than after it. Rhiannon has a great question actually about the submission fee, and this may relate to some tasks being locked on people's accounts. So the submission fee was brought in earlier this year, and so it actually may not be a task for some companies. Some companies may have submitted prior to that coming in. So if you don't see that as a task on your review area, then it doesn't apply to you or you've already paid it. If there is an open task on the submission fee, then please do go forward and complete the payment of the submission fee, which will unlock the other tasks that that Nicole has gone through with you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much.
No problem. Nicole, Phil was asking about the call with the analyst. Kind of when does that happen and how does that come about?
Yeah, so the call with the analyst has been brought forward earlier in the micro enterprise approach. So it will be in the evaluation stage. So once you've completed these tasks in the evaluation queue, you'll be able to schedule your review call and then have the review call, which should be kind of within a 2-week period.
Great. And then there was a question from Sarah on the reporting period. So hopefully we...
Excuse me, James.
Sorry, go ahead, Phil.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to just unmute myself. It's Phil, by the way. Thanks for the answer to that, Nicole. Booking that review call is done how and where, please? Sorry if I'm being a bit slow here. Because we've done the evaluation phase and now we're in the verification phase, but we haven't had the call.
Okay, that's interesting. We can look into that for you, but it should be the analyst reaching out to you either through the BImpacts app, the review page, or directly via email. But we can look into that to see.
I wouldn't mind, that'd be super helpful.
No problem.
And it's Phil Hine from Realworth.
Great. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Sorry for interrupting you, James.
No. It's good to get answers to your questions. That's why we're here.
Thank you very much.
So we had a question from Sarah again on this reporting period. So Sarah, I just wanted to check that we'd answered that for you, and that I think what we're really looking for is to just stick with your original reporting period. However, you can update specifically the financial questions on that assessment. So hopefully we've answered
James,
that.
I'm here. Can I jump quickly and just clarify?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the financial, I'm happy to update the financial information. There's a number of things that kind of relate to that in terms of like employees and staff, and then knock-on questions on the back of it. Is it better to just define that original reporting period? Because we submitted last December and our financial year has changed, and a number of other things. So just clarify the period and go from there, or should we update?
Yeah, it's better just to kind of clarify that period and just go with the reporting period that you originally did it from, and then they'll kind of take it through and verify that reporting period.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Brilliant. So Sarah's asked a kind of a technical question. Does a contractor working on 6-month plus contract count as an employee? And so should the documentation on the workers include contractors? So yes, if you're a contractor that works over 6 months on 40 hours a week, then that should count as an FTE. And so that should be kind of, when you're thinking about your employee numbers or how you kind of report on your employees, you should include those specific contractors. Chris has asked, if we have responded by the due date on all outstanding issues, do we just wait for that date? No, so if you've responded, if you've done all of the tasks, then actually you should be able to move forward within the next month, because there are analysts that are waiting to work with companies. And so we can see how many companies are kind of ready to assign to analysts. And so if you've managed to complete all of those tasks, then just sit tight and you'll be contacted by an analyst to move you through to the verification stage. Kat has asked if one of the questions available is about healthcare and we have the NHS, can we comment one line about it being the NHS? Yes, this is where we're quite lucky in the UK. Well, we're lucky to be in the UK for a number of reasons, but having the NHS is one of the big reasons. So actually the two kind of markets that the assessment is based on, so there's a developed market assessment and there's an emerging market assessment. And so some of the questions are the same if you're a company in the US as if you're a company in the UK. And obviously in the US, they don't have a public healthcare system. And so we would get, as a company, you would get kind of points just by having the NHS there. And that's a quirk of the system, but obviously a good one for us. Yeah, and then Sarah was asking about I think we can only attach one document in the comments. I think that is the case, and so you can kind of leave multiple comments, and actually you can kind of leave a comment saying we do have this extra documentation, which you can then provide at a later stage when you go through that verification process.
Yeah, that's what I was going to add. You can just leave multiple comments if you've got more than one document that you want to attach.
Fantastic. And then James has asked about the improvement guide. And I wonder, Nicole, maybe we can, as we are kind of going to follow up with everyone, we're going to send them the recording of this and the slides. Maybe we could send them the recording of the improvement event that we previously did, so that they have access to some of those things that we talked about.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have a set of slides from that event as well, so we can share the recording and the slides, which contain all of the information as well.
That's really helpful, guys. Thank you.
No problem. And then Chris is asking us about the call as well. So you should really be having some information from the analyst in the next kind of week or so. So if you don't, then please reach out to us and we can dig into that and just make sure that you're continuing to move through the process. And I've got a really useful comment from Darren here saying for multiple documents, I just merged PDFs and explained in the comments, which is, yeah, that's better than my suggestion. So great answer there from Darren. Thank you very much for that. If we have, Kat has asked if we have answered some questions based on an older reporting period, but have recently added policies or done things to improve the score. Is that okay? Yes, so it's a great question, Kat. And yes, you are kind of working on an old reporting period, say, December 19 to December 20, something like that. But on things like policies, those kind of binary things, you can get those, if you've improved over that period of time, you can get points for that. Things like, yeah, there is a policy in place for our code of conduct with suppliers, or there's a new policy in place for primary and secondary caregiver leave. So those things specifically, like policies that are you know, you either have them or you don't. You will still be able to kind of get recognition for that. Great. So I think we've run through all of the questions that we have on the chat. Is there anyone else that had any questions, either they want to put their hand up and ask off mute, or in the chat? We're happy to kind of pick those up.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Julia.
Hi. So we are extremely new to this. We were given the 16th of August, but I think Amanda has emailed Nicole to ask if we can have an extension because we've not been able to get into the portal. And so I think we're waiting for Nicole to email us back with that confirmation. I sent some questions yesterday when I booked in with the ticket, so I don't know whether you have those. It could be that they've already been answered. I know that some of you were talking about the legal pathway. Am I right in thinking that was it someone said that they had something after speaking to their lawyers about an article? Because we don't know where to find it. So is anyone able to help out with that one?
So
yeah.
So hi, it's Alex.
Hi.
So this is where I'm probably not educated enough to actually respond, but there are specific paragraphs you have to sign into your basically your constitution, your articles of association within your company. That will need to be board and possibly shareholder approved, which can take a little bit of time. The wording supplied by B Corp, but the question earlier was, depending on your sort of the articles of association you've got currently, it's maybe not obvious where to cut and paste them in, and it's as easy as that. Don't get me wrong, there's some quite weighty things in there, so it's important the board and everyone understands them. I'm happy to share those. In fact, more generally for future sort of evolutions of B Corp and how we help companies get through, if there was ever a desire by B Corp in the UK to have organizations that have been through this, and I realize I'm not through this yet, and who knows, but who have gone through it successfully, who are willing to give some time to companies maybe in the process, just with a bit of advice, coaching, almost like buddying.
Yeah,
I would happily volunteer for that. I would have found that useful going through this. I'm sure others would too.
Yeah.
But if you drop your email, I'll gladly send you our articles. But when you're on the B Corp site, once you get access, you'll actually be able to see the specific terms they want, and it's relatively easy to paste them in. I'm also pretty confident that B Corp won't mind where they are as long as they're there, because it's a legal document. The structure is less important.
Thank you. Thanks, Alex, very much.
No problem. Sorry to drag on.
Thank you. And I think the other two questions that we had was, I think we've already said that if we can't do the accounts for this last year, if we did 2019, 2020, that would be okay. Our CEO was more worried about what we might have made last year due to COVID. So can you just confirm that that's okay, that we could supply the 2019-20 financials?
Yeah, it would be your last set of audited accounts. So whichever those are. Okay.
And just one more that we wanted to know. We just didn't know how to pay the fee to become a micro company.
So it depends if there is a task on your review. So if there is a task that says pay submission fee, then that is relevant for you, and you would just open that task, and it's got a PayPal integration where you can pay via PayPal or via credit or debit card. In terms of actually, the fee, the annual certification fee that companies pay once they're certified, that will come right at the end of the process, and you'll be talked through that by the analyst.
Okay, lovely, thank you. That was all I had for now.
Great.
I'm sure I'm going to have a lot more.
Yeah, no worries. That's why we're here. Thank you, Julia. Darren.
Yeah, just on that comment Alex Miller just made around the community piece and giving back a little bit of support. There is I don't know if you come across it, but there's the Be Local chapter. So there's one in Scotland, and there's LinkedIn groups that are more than happy to share their wisdom, if you like. So if you've got questions, you can hop on LinkedIn. I've used it a couple of times. when I've had questions. We are B Corp pending, which means we've also been able to access these groups and Slack channels and stuff. And I'm not sure if it's open to everybody, but LinkedIn's a first good place to ask. I had a question as well on, it's not so much on the accreditation side of things, but we're looking to do a bit of a collab with another B Corp. We are pending status at the moment. I don't know, have you got to be fully accredited before you can do any collabs, or is there any rules around that?
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, it sounds like you're already kind of well integrated into the community, obviously, as a Pendy B Corp and engaging with your B local. So it's, yeah, it's something that we love to see within the B Corp community. I think I just saw one the other day. Was it Wolf and Badger and who is it? Tony's. And Tony's Chocolonely. Sorry, my colleagues are around the room here helping me out with that. But yeah, so it's always amazing to see. So yeah, a pending B and B Corp collab would be brilliant.
I've been scratching my head how I can get beer involved into our collab, but I haven't figured it out. But to contact those organisations we might want to work with, is just best through the B Corp UK site. Is that? Yeah,
I think potentially through the Beehive. I think if you have access to that, that would be the best way of doing it.
There's the issue, I think, because B Corp pendants don't get access to the Hive, I don't think so.
Okay, great. Well, it might be if you can maybe just send us the email at the certification channel, or if you want to go directly to the company, then that might also be the best way of doing it. But I'm sure we'll be able to figure that out.
Sorry, a bit off tangent, but thanks for
having me. No, absolutely not. And I'll take one more just so that I make sure everyone gets away on time. Graham.
Yeah, thank you, James. Just a very quick question. So we're very early to this as well, but our company is very small. There's only myself and my wife. We're a consulting group. We've only been going a couple of years, and we don't actually draw down any salary from our company. We're both directors. So do we say we don't have any employees, or are we as directors 2 employees, but then we don't actually draw any salary, so we can't say we're paying us more than the living wage, if you see what I mean?
Yeah, so actually one of the things we would check with yourself is that you're on the what we call the 0 worker track. So the assessment changes based on the size and the sector of your organization. And because you're 2 kind of founder directors, you would technically have no employees, as you say. And so the best way to do that is to go onto your dashboard, log back into your assessment, and you can see your track there, and just check that you're in the 0 worker rather than the 1 to 9 worker track. And actually what you can do now is you can update that track yourself. Previously we had to do it, but we've given you the power now. So if you are in the 1 to 9 worker track, you can now change it to the 0, and then that will be the related one for your business.
Brilliant. Thank you, James. Thank you.
No problem. I think there's one question that I did want to kind of just pick up on. It was around the banking question from Kat. And actually Triodos are the only bank on that banking question that you would be able to get points for, because they're a B Corp. The cooperative bank is, as you may all know, is no longer a B Corp, a cooperative. And so they wouldn't count in terms of getting points in that section. But with that, I will bring it to a close. Many, many thanks to all of my colleagues that have helped get this together, and to Nicole, who's obviously taken you through all of the tasks that you've needed. And again, a big thank you to you. I mean, one of the things that I've seen, even just on this, is that everyone has already got that energy of like helping each other and taking each other through that certification journey and being really kind of gracious with their time. So, I mean, it's really inspiring for me to see, and can't wait to kind of help you all work through this next stage of the process and join the B Corp community, and to welcome you into it in the UK. So thank you very much, and please let us know if you have any questions just through that email going forward. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was really good.
Thanks, everyone.